startup, so we need to raise money, and there's currently no real money in Brisbane unless you're doing mining or medical. And on top of that, even if you are doing tech, the valuations just aren't really worth it. It's not really worth your time when they want to charge, basically, when they want 50% of your company for a measly amount. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So you've spent some time walking around Australia?
Yeah, I've done a lot of pitch comps is what I used to do, so it was actually pretty good. So I've won 3 pitch comps now, which got us about 250k with the capital, which was great. So that was pretty good. But that was in one of my old startups. But it was, eventually you wind up the circuit, you've done it all, and then it's like you only have 3 a year you can go to, right? And that only gets you so far. Then you go to investors and you have a lot of issues there, and it's, once you start hitting the investors, a lot of the firms in Australia, we don't really have angels. We have the Brisbane Angels, we have Sydney Angels, but that's like, 10 people put in for a 50k amount, which is not really, I don't want to have to manage 10 investors for that small of a packet.
A little bit different down in Canberra, where Jono and I spend a lot of time. Capital Angels is a bit different, very much the high tech. But you're right, Australia's pretty small in the angel investment field.
Yeah, and I mean, our average packet you get in Australia is, for an angel investment, it's deemed as anything from anywhere from 100,000 to maximum $500,000. Whereas here, it's deemed anywhere from 200,000 all the way up to 3 million is still seed funding. So that's the big difference. And it's because of that they also they invest in the differences over here. They invest in the people. So that's the big thing we've noticed, is they want to know your background, they want to know who you are. Whereas in Australia, they seem to want you to crystal ball. So, hey, what are your projections going to be like in 5 years' time? And I'm like, does anyone know? I mean, you can even go to the big companies right now. Microsoft don't even know what they're going to be turning over in 5 years' time. But they expect a startup that hasn't either done this before, they've done it before, but they haven't done this industry or anything like that.
Why do you think that is?
Because we're very risk averse. So in Australia, it's really interesting to see how risk averse we are. So even our corporate structure is 100% risk averse compared to here. So for instance, just for a corporate structure, we have this thing in Australia where you can't have no one allocated shares. So if you have 1,000 shares in the company, you have to allocate 1,000. So there's no room for, as you being a CEO or you being a board member, to allocate these shares without getting basically a signed signature from everyone on your board, from every investor, from everything like that. Whereas over here, you're allowed to have these unallocated shares. That allows you options for staff members, which you can't do in Australia. It also allows you to be able to do things like, hey, if we need to raise a round, we can do it without having to send out paperwork to every single person, which is kind of painful, to be honest. So we're very risk adverse, and that's...
So those logistics get in the way of fast moving and startups?
That's exactly it. Like, it's